toggle it up. Come on. There we go. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, I'm just going to go into my Facebook page super quick, and we're live.
Oh, okay. Then I'm here. Hi.
And from my post this morning, there's going to be a lot of people watching. So yeah, with this program that I use, I can answer questions and ask questions that people ask on the fly as well. So anybody that comments on the Facebook live stream automatically comes up onto a different program. And yeah, I have to be as technologically savvy as possible.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah, that's never been my strong suit. So it's been a struggle.
It kind of goes against the whole Renaissance woman style.
Well, that's the thing. I've been keeping up. I mean, I've been trying, but it's just you know what I mean? I feel like I'm the hamster in the wheel. Do you know what I mean? Just keep going. It's like, all right, what's next? What's next? What's next? So
well, it does seem like you've been super busy with online training and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, luckily I've had the Pineau that I've been working with, just doing education. So yeah, that's been great. I just finished the second of the series yesterday. So we did a tasting. So that went really well. And yeah, there'll be more. We're going to run amok with it. We're going to Portland Cocktail Week.
Nice.
Hopefully if everything goes well. But yeah, I've been doing a series of these also, been zooming in here and there. So it's been a little overwhelming, I have to say.
But you've been usually the interviewer and the instigator, correct?
That's right. That's right. From years ago, when I was with the USBG, I started this interview series called Talk with a Pro, where I used to interview luminaries who'd come into our meetings. And then yeah, of course, moderating tail seminars, and even I started this kind of weekly fun Zoom where I'm calling Quarantunes and Quips. I couldn't think of a name, but where we have just industry people who show off their talents, like their artistic talents. So that's been really fun too. So yeah, it's funny to be in the hot seat. Wonder if I should put these in.
I think it's going to continue after all this is over. I think that Zoom meetings and online educations are going to continue in maybe not as much as we're doing right now, but I think they're going to continue long after this is all over.
Well, I think a lot of things have changed, obviously, and a lot of ways of working are going to be continuing just like this, and trainings. Mm-hmm. And, I think there'll be a lot less travel, unfortunately, for some of us in the future. But I think you're right. And, why not? And, there's some mean-spirited people out there who are saying things like, just basically stop. They're telling people like, stop, there's enough of this kind of noise out there. But I say, no, just keep doing it. This is the way you... Exactly. If this is the way you want to express yourself, if this is the way you want to get through this by communicating with people, like, who are you? I won't name that person, but, it's like, who are you to tell people that they should not put out content, or they should not?
I've done a few tongue-in-cheek observations, just because, like, when you open up your Instagram for a while, the top row of Instagram is just lit up like Christmas trees because everybody's doing live chats with everybody.
Yeah.
But like, that's just the thing, is like, everybody needs a creative outlet right now, and an industry of built-in creative people. Like, that's where I'm hearing people being depressed and having mental health issues, because they have no outlet right now, and they've gone from being a bar star in the best possible vernacular of being like king of the hill or queen of the hill behind a bar, to all of a sudden not being able to make a cocktail or even talk to other people.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's one thing that's really interesting too, is that, and I hate to use that buzzword, but the pivoting. How do you go from that? How do you make, how do you maintain that creativity and just your expression? Like, how do you keep, motivating people or affecting people, or do you just kind of sit back right now and go, okay, no, you know what? I'm going to enjoy this time off. And I think everyone's free to do it however they'd like, sans jugement.
I think your episode is going to be episode 153 or 54, I think, of my podcast.
I'm glad I'm so high up in the rankings there.
Well, I was doing it for twice a week for the longest time. A couple of times in Singapore, I completely missed my Tuesdays, but then when all this sort of hit, I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to do a podcast every day, Monday to Friday, taking audio from live streams or doing phone interviews or this sort of stuff. And so I've done 4 weeks worth of episodes 5 times a week, which is a lot of work when you're a solo operator.
Wow, that is a lot of work. That's a lot. I don't know if people realize how much, goes into this. I was just saying, I think before we went live, it's even getting your space, getting the room Zoom ready, that kind of thing. And just, mentally preparing yourself and, maybe doing research on your guests. It's, it's time consuming.
I actually never research my guests. For me, the podcast and like chatting to people like yourself and friends and mentors and peers, 9 times out of 10, something comes out that I didn't know about them and it puts it on a different tangent. Like last week's Fan Alming was like, oh yeah, my years in the Norwegian military. I'm like, excuse me, what? Like, but you know what? Talking about origin stories, for the people that are watching, what is Franky Marshall's origin story? What's the Franky Marshall #1? How did you start in the industry?
Oh, well, let's see. The clean version that I always tell. No, I started pretty. I was trying to support myself through school. So I went to school for music, and but even before that, I was did a year abroad in France, thinking I wanted to be a French teacher, but quickly realized that that's not what I wanted. But I just really wanted to learn to speak French, and I wanted to live in France. So I checked those 2 off, and then I decided, while singing along with the radio, thinking, oh yeah, I should do this now. Let me go to music school. So yeah, I've done all that stuff, singing in bands and wedding bands, just alternative bands, rock bands, like all of that stuff, singing backup, singing lead, everything like that. All the while, working like waitressing, mostly waitressing. So yeah. And then eventually, I decided that I wanted to do the bartending thing because it looked cool. And, bartenders always made more money. And they, just basically the bartenders I, came up with, you used to just basically stand here behind the bar, you just like standing there going, no, you can't have this, or yes, you can have this. It looked really easy. So.
What was your first big bar gig?
My first big bar gig, let's see. Well, I'd say a bar gig of note was probably, I worked at kind of B and C and D, E, F, G list nightclubs in New York, like really some sketchy places where, you just never knew what was going to happen. You never knew who was coming in, places that were run by Teamsters and, where there was always like just weird things happening, a lot of strange things happening, whether it was the owners, like, yeah, just a lot of, decadent. It was a decadent era, right? So like a lot of drugs, a lot of, who knows, just random.
Are we allowed to say what year this era was in?
Darling, who can remember? Who can remember years? I mean, a little while back. But it was a time when you could get away with a lot more now. It's so funny. I was reading someone online saying, yeah, these people got fired. The owners didn't even give them any notice. I'm just like, I literally went into work at one of these places one night. It was boarded up and there was just a sign on the door going closed. I mean, you didn't get notice.
Yeah.
You didn't get anything. You didn't get breaks. You didn't get hardly a shift pay. I'll be honest, I used to work for just tips a lot of times. They didn't care about paying you because they didn't need to. If you didn't want to work, get out. Someone else will work.
Before the age of social media.
Well, yeah, it's true. This was before you could, call everybody out and, just
yeah, call everybody out.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I guess the first big bar gig, my first cocktail bar gig was when I started, I guess, at Clover Club. I mean, I didn't start cocktail as a bartender there. I started as a cocktail server. But then I got behind the bar within less than a year. I'd say probably 9 months or so. So that was, I guess, that was the big cocktail industry bar gig. Although I had been bartending before at places that, that people didn't really know about.
What drew you to the cocktail game?
It was just curiosity and wanting to move on from, just I'd made every type of, of those club drinks, and I'd actually been working with cocktails. I worked at a Japanese Peruvian place where we made, pisco sours and, and mojitos and caipirinhas and things like that. And I'd actually worked with a cocktail menu that was, kind of this long with all vodka drinks, all the Stoli flavors, all the absolute flavors, that kind of thing. So I'd done those kinds of cocktails, and I just realized, I just wanted to learn more and progress. And music, that life just got really hard and depressing. So I decided, I just wanted to go further with the kind of, to see if I could go further with serious, hospitality.
What sort of roundabout what year was this?
Like this, so Clover Club opened in 2008. So I can't even hide that fact, because it's just, that's just a fact.
It's always one of those things, like talking to older generation bartenders. Well, I shouldn't say older generation bartenders like us, but like when we first started out, most of the time the knowledge wasn't online like it is now.
Exactly.
Philip Duff just commented saying, "Finally, I get to see into Miss Franky's bedroom." Lockdown.
Philip Duff, you had your chances. Oh, just kidding.
But a lot of us didn't have the option of having online. We didn't have smartphones. We didn't have all this sort of stuff to like learn. Like if you had to learn, you had to literally go and find a cocktail book, read the cocktail book, highlight notes, memorize it, the whole shebang. Exactly. So it's a little bit different to these days. So Clover Club was 2008. What kept you sort of pushing? Because I've got something that I really want to talk to you about, but I want to get to there. What kept you pushing to get better and better and better? Because I think we met 2010, 2012?
Well, yeah, at the G5.
Yeah, GTP, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like 11 or 12.
It was definitely 12.
It was definitely 12?
Yeah, you probably started it you did it in 11, I guess.
11, yeah. So 2012. So from 2008 to 2012, like going from a cocktail waitress at Clover Club to an international competition in France, what were the stages in those four years that took you from, and not really 0 to 60, but like 0 after doing 10,000 miles to 60?
Right. Well, I think that part of it was when I started at Clover as a cocktail waitress. Again, I was coming from being a bartender, so I knew what bit of bartending was. I didn't know what cocktail bartending was, so I was never, I guess, really. I wasn't like intimidated or scared to just kind of, ask questions or go forward, or because I was like, all right, this is just another part of something that I've been doing, even though I didn't know any of the books, or, I bought 2 books in the early days. I bought, Jerry Thomas's Bartender's Guide, and I bought, what's the other, Johnson.
Yeah, Harry Johnson.
Harry Johnson. So yeah, I have that by nature. I'm a curious person. I always want to learn, and I've always wanted to just get better at things, and that's why, I went to music school. I was able to sing, but I wanted to learn about music theory and technique, and not just be the singer, because a lot of musicians have, especially in jazz, they've got the thing about, the female singer, like especially the female singer, just don't worry, don't let them sing, just stand there, So I didn't want to be like that in the cocktail world also. So it was just important to, learn and keep trying. And I have to say that before I got hired at Clover, I did send my resume out via Craigslist to a lot of places, a few cocktail places, and no one, I went for one interview at a place that still exists, and, they didn't hire me. And that's, yeah, exactly. I won't call anybody out, no call outs, but, and a couple of years, many years later, somebody else who didn't hire me said, well, if I'd known that you had all that chutzpah, I would have hired you. I don't know. Thanks. But so, yeah, it was really just that I just wanted to just keep getting better for my, not to prove anything, really just for my own sake, because I wanted to know what I was talking about.
That's fair. And was GCP the sort of the big pivot for you to sort of see how on an international scale? Obviously, Tales of the Cocktail gives you that sort of examples as well, but was GCP the sort of turning point for you to sort of really just ramp up your career?
I'll be it. That was the year, I think. I mean, I'd done one competition live before that. I think I did the sherry competition in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And then I entered a couple of little, mail-in things before that. But the first international competition was that GCP. And that year that 2012, I also won the Plymouth Gin, and liquor.com had a competition as well for the classic cocktail competition. And those actually all happened in the same year. So I literally went to GCP, competed, and then from there went to France because I won the Plymouth. I was the overall winner. So I went from there to England to kind of collect on the prize. So the both of those competitions were really big for me in 2012. GCP with the learning and the crushing defeat of coming so close and not winning that one. That's still with me, that loss. But I learned so much. I really learned a lot on that for that.
That's right, crushed ice. You fucking had a crushed ice cocktail at GCP.
And fried basil. Don't ask me why I was frying basil on the morning of the competition. It was
things
I've learned.
Yep. I remember you mentioned
I'm sorry.
the other day.
I'm sorry.
I had a team of French kids from the culinary school who no one spoke English, and I just sent one of them down to get 4 big pillowcases, and a big wooden mallet, and I was crushing ice a la minute for you for 500 people.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, now I remember. Now I'm curious of why I decided to do this freaking interview. So fast forward, like, are you still actively bartending, or are you really just focusing on education?
No, I'm still I always consider myself, I call myself a modern bartender now.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't just bartend, I do, all everything that I can. But yeah, so I actually picked up a couple of shifts just before this all ended, just to get back, because I had been looking for a job, but it was hard to find the right fit, the right place that would actually let me do the other things that I want to do. That requires honestly taking time off and all that stuff. So so yeah, I would still like to get back either running a program or doing something creative like that, as well as everything else that I do, if I can find it.
I'm gonna get to it, but what is it with you and obscure spirits? So you said 2020, that's 2012, you won a sherry competition. Which sherry in 2012?
Well, no, I didn't win the sherry comp. I was just a part of the sherry comp in 2011.
2011 sherry wasn't cool, firstly.
Right.
Secondly, 2015 BCB, you were there with the Peruvian tourism body or thing with Pisco.
Well, what's interesting with that? I wasn't even there with them. They had me on that video, and I didn't even know I was at BCB, and I walked by and I went, wait, I'm on this video. How did that happen? But no, so I had made cocktails with Pisco, prior to that, and cachaça, and even like pomo. I think I used pomo. But yeah, it was just, I guess, a way of looking for other things to work with. Even the first time I did Pineau, I worked with Pineau, was in 2012, and I entered that same cocktail for both the GCP, the initial stage, and for the Plymouth comp as well. But yeah, it was just even then I was just thinking about, well, how do I use something that other people aren't using, And I was really curious about those different spirits.
And what drew you to Pineau de Charentes?
It was really by accident. And I have, I guess, shout out Tad Carducci, because I was working at the Tippler at that point, and it was one of those things, I don't know if you've ever done this when you're making a cocktail and you're like, oh my God, what am I going to put in this? And you're just staring at the bar, right? I don't know if you've done that, but so I'm staring at the bar going, okay, all right, so what can I, pair with gin? And we had those, cases, those the fridges that, you could see into, the glass doors. And I saw the bottle there and I went, what's that? I picked it up. I didn't know what it was. I just tasted it and I thought, okay, I can work with this. I liked it. And then that was it. It was really random like that.
And did that just sort of lean into, because I know that you've been a big cognac educator, and obviously Pineau is basically just around the corner. Have you always been a big proponent for Pineau de Charentes, and then the Pinot people came to you and said, "Hey, we need a," because it's a weird ambassadorship, like, and I've seen, and I understand cognac as an ambassadorship, but then you're like heavy, like you're doing multiple different example tastings, and like you're deep into it.
Well, yeah, how do I condense how I got into it? So just again, it was through a competition. It was, so I entered, so I was a cap from Tales of the Cocktail, right? An apprentice. I did that for 3 years in a row. And they had a competition for caps, a cognac competition just for the caps. And I won that. Again, that was 2012. 2012 was a big competition year. And my prize was a trip to Cognac. And so I got to go, and that was my second trip to Cognac after the GCP. So that was 2013. I got on the radar of the Cognac HQ, and then just again randomly, I was in Portland for Cocktail Week, and one of the people who worked with the agency for Cognac saw me in a restaurant and said, "Hey, you should apply to be a Cognac educator." And I went, "All right," and didn't think anything of it. And then they finally, followed up with me a week before the application was due, and I had to scramble to get this whole essay and all this stuff in. And then I became a Cognac educator in 2014, and then started working with the category. So I'm not an ambassador, but I'm, a Cognac educator, but I've done quite a bit of, work for them. And then again, the person, and I'll shout out to Bertrand Blanchet, who was working with the agency with Cognac. Then they got the Pineau de Charentes contract, and he said, "Why don't you work with us on Pinot now?" And I said, "Okay, why not? I get to go back to Cognac and visit more houses, and yeah, why not?" So that's how it started.
What do you like? I'm actually supposed to do my Cognac educator this month, actually, and it's been put off to, it's been put off till 2021 now. So it'll be this time next year now that I'll be going to Cognac to do that. But what do you find is because it, like, in the cocktail geekism, even in the cocktail geekism world that we live in,
yes,
Pineau de Charentes is still not something that most bars even have. Like, even top cocktail bars don't even have one. Like, it's not listed. So what's the hurdles that you find? And obviously you're very you negotiate very well, or tell people how to do things very well. What do you find is the biggest hurdle to get people to enjoy it and understand it?
Part of it, it's like just understanding what it is. People don't know. People just don't know what it is. So, for all intents and purposes, it's basically a fortified wine. Unfortunately, the label says dessert wines on a lot of them, on a lot of the bottles, which is doing it a disservice, because it's much more than that. Mm-hmm. So I think that's part of it. Just what is it? Where does it fit into, our lineup, if you will? I've seen it in restaurants, and they always relegate it to the after dinner drinks. Mm-hmm. And it really is much more. It's an aperitif. It really is great in cocktails. And honestly, I wouldn't work with a category that I didn't believe in. And that's also why I haven't, let's finish with the Pinot. But so yeah, I think that's mainly, and honestly, pronouncing it could be an issue for people, but it's easy to pronounce. That's why I call it the Pinot you should know. But, yeah, so it's but it's very approachable, and like we really are seeing it more and more now, and that's part of the thing too. A lot of cocktail bartenders are always looking for the new geeky thing. Yeah. What is something that other people don't have that I can get, and that and that's a kind of a selling point for it too right now.
Where do you usually put it in the sort of the vermouth sherry sort of aperitif wine sort of category? Where do you sort of sit it for people who have no idea what it is and are listening? The weird thing with my podcast is that my demographics are very odd, that I have the exact same amount of people between 18 and 24 listening as I do 35 to 50. And it's the exact same percentage of demo. So I've got young bartenders who listen to me and operators who listen to me.
Right. Yeah.
When you're educating, where do you sort of sit Pineau de Charentes in the grand scheme of things for mixing?
For mixing, definitely well, there's a few things. You could, it doesn't taste like sherry, but you could say, sub it in a sherry cobbler. Again, the aperitif, I made a drink, the P&T, which is basically just a play on the G&T, but with slightly different proportions and with, grapefruit and thyme, which really add to the whole profile of the drink. So just as easy as that, P&T, and of course after dinner for sure. And as a food accompaniment, it works really well too. So, just throw that glass of Sauterne out the window and, you can get yourself some PDC. But it really, I just encourage people, like I don't, I'm not a salesperson. Mm-hmm. So I just encourage people, just taste it. It's really well priced, especially wholesale, really well priced. So just, pick up a bottle and just try it out in your cocktails.
Do you feel like you've got traction on it? Because you, like I said, you do so much for it. Like maybe it's just during the COVID thing with how many live streams and stuff I've seen. Like, have you started seeing bars changing their ways? And the thing is we can talk about geeky bars, but like just bars in general, hotel bars and stuff like that. Are you starting to see the work you're doing changing people's perceptions?
Honestly, I think so. And I don't think it's just me, but I do. I mean, even looking at the Pineau Academy Instagram, there's a lot more followers now. There's a lot more people putting forth really great looking cocktails. Well, everything looks great on Instagram, but no, but people are playing with it, so they're finally, wanting to have it. So that really actually makes me feel pretty good. So yes, I have seen an uptick.
It's all you. You can take complete credit.
I'll just take the credit for now. Whatever. It's my segment. I'll take the credit.
Pineau Academy sounds fantastic, though. We need to get some more stuff like this in Canada.
Well, yeah, you know what? That's the thing. We're, Canada is the second biggest market for Pinot after, actually the third. It's France, Belgium, and then Canada. But we're only working with the U.S. I mean, I'd love to be able to get myself up to Canadiania and do some work, but let's see what I can do. Are the Pinot headquarter people listening out there?
You never know. So what's been your biggest challenge in your career to, like, it seems like you've always picked, which is always a difficult thing for a lot of people. You always, in my eyes anyway, you've always picked exactly what you've wanted to do and damn the rest. Has that helped or hindered you? Like, probably on a personal level, it's always helped you, but has it hindered you as well? What have been like setbacks and hurdles you've had with sticking to your mission, your personal mission statement and mantra?
Well, I've definitely had setbacks. Even, I mean, just trying to get a job in the cocktail world, like I said initially, was difficult. And again, I have to, thank again Julie Reiner and Susan Fedroff for hiring me back in those days. I mean, as I'm saying, I really enjoy working with the categories, and I've never really, really wanted to work with a brand. And I've been offered a couple of brand jobs, and, there's a couple of points where I thought maybe I should have taken that, that brand job. So not really regrets, but kind of, what ifs, but I think the positive thing about the path that I've chosen right now is that I can just I can pivot, I can just start, go here and then go there. I can get back behind a bar. I can run a program. I can, educate across categories. And, I think sometimes people like think of me as the cognac lady or something. Somebody called me that the other day. It sounds like, anyway. But yeah, I mean, I work with all kinds of spirits. I'm still a bartender, so I work. I love gin. I always love gin. I love whatever mezcal. I love wine. I really love wine. That's what I love to drink. So I don't know. I mean, as far as more setbacks and hurdles, there are a couple of jobs I wish that I'd had or taken, but I don't know. I think, and thank you for pointing it out, because I do think that I have tried to do that. I've tried to just, maintain my own integrity and just kind of keep moving forward, even though, there have been people I've gotten the kind of like side look from certain people, and somebody actually said to me once, you're learning all these things, you're getting these certifications. What are you going to do with them all? I thought, what's it to you? You know what I mean? Just like back up. So there are people who think like that. So there's that kind of. I think it's part jealousy, it's part kind of like like sometimes it's insecurity on people's parts, like, well, why are you learning these things and I'm not, or I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I think that's really odd that people feel that way. But I'm not going to stop, darling. I'm not going to stop. So there you go.
What's been your greatest success?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think I'm still looking for that. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure. I will say that I've had some great experiences with people that I don't even know. I've had some people that come up to me and say really flattering and thankful things. During BCB last year, I went out actually to a bar late night, and I had the bartender come around from the bar and just say to me, I'm doing this because of you. I do this because of you. And I was just floored. I mean, this was about 1 a.m. This was at House of Yes, actually.
Yeah.
And
so House of Yes, you were there early at 1 a.m.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I've had a couple of experiences like that where people just, just kind of saying, hey, hey, thanks, or whatever. And I was, so yeah, I think moments like that.
So what's your plan for the next 6 months after, hypothetically speaking, COVID finishes tomorrow? What is the Franky Marshall plan looking like for the rest of 2020?
Getting a job. Looking for a job. Yeah, I mean, as I said, I'll be doing a couple more Pinot events. Hopefully, there'll be some cognac things coming up. Unfortunately, we're not doing BCB any longer. But yeah, and then just we'll see. I mean, so I've been doing more wine learning. So I did my intro to the Court of Masters.
Wow.
So I'm thinking either going for the whole Somm certification, or else just something else along those lines. You've done your decided wine educators, no?
Yeah, I did that years ago, but I'm going for my WSET 3 this year.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do my CSE as well, my Certified Spirit Educator, which I have to come to the States for.
Right.
So we don't do it.
Sorry.
So sorry. I have to go to Palm Springs of all places to do that. So, which is very weird. So for young bartenders out there, because I think, like I said before, like the wonderful thing about you is that you really have always stuck to your guns and like stood by who you are and what you are and what you stand for. Where I find a lot of bartenders sort of go, oh, I'm just gonna give up those 3 things that I really feel strongly about to get this job, or I'm gonna do this even though I don't love the brand. Like we both know people who are brand ambassadors and then they get let go or they leave the brand and all of a sudden you find out they hate the brand and you're just like, huh. So for 4 years you were championing a brand that you really despised. So what advice would you give to young bartenders who sometimes feel conflicted when it comes to getting their dream job? Or
yeah, well, you know what, that's actually harder even to say right now, because I know a lot of us are going to go back to maybe no job, so we might not have a job to go to. So I think it's really hard to tell people right now to it's even harder to stick to your guns in a way, because you might need to take some job that you don't really believe in, but you need to make money. And I think that's you really have to, and I don't mean to sound a little too, but you really do have to look within yourself and decide what you can live with. You know what I mean? And just tune everybody else out. Just tune everything else out and just say, okay, what am I comfortable doing? Am I comfortable representing this brand? Am I comfortable working here? Am I comfortable, do I want to move to Asia, or, whatever it is? And I think you really need to decide that for yourself. And then you can, because once you're okay with it, then then that's all that really matters. You know what I mean? And I think that integrity shows through with people. So I think that that's really important. I mean, probably pre-COVID, I would have just said, just sit there and just wait, wait for the right thing. But we don't all have the opportunity right now to sit around and wait for the right thing, because who knows what's going to happen. And so much is changing right now. So as long as you feel comfortable, I think that that's the important thing. But get to know yourself, get to know what you really like to work with, or what you can represent. And, and maybe it is just still bartending, and that's not just still, but maybe it is bartending, and that's fine too,
Nice.
So, yeah.
I want to say thank you very much for your time, darling.
Are we done already? I was expecting this to go all night. I had an outfit change ready.
The music interlude was about to start, wasn't it? The musical interlude. Like the chorus boys were going to come out and like serenade everybody beforehand.
Yeah, I've had the chorus boys are actually under the bed right now. Just, hey guys, I'm coming. Yeah.
It was lovely to chat to you. I really appreciate it. I think it's I just like to get everybody's opinion.
Yeah.
Because I think out there's too much noise online in the way of like this way you
have to do it this way.
Young bartenders can really see, because I think a lot of times young bartenders think it should happen overnight. Like they should be bartenders at Death and Company in a space of 6 months, instead of really understanding the 10 years it took before you could even think about applying at a place like that. So it's always nice to catch up with you anyway.
Well, thank you. And, just to that point, you're absolutely right. And I worked with a guy who actually said to me, he's told me he wanted to be a star tender. Punched him. But anyways, yeah, it's true. People don't realize it takes time. You need to get to learn things. And like you said, it's so easy right now with Instagram and online. It just seems like, in all these cocktail tutorial videos, it seems like, yeah, I can learn this and it's easy. And on one hand, yeah, it's not that hard to build a cocktail, but it's everything else that goes into it. It's like how you relate to guests, it's your hospitality, it's your demeanor, it's that kind of thing. Oh, and by the way, I should say I will be doing a BCB talk on this called Re-examining the Role of the Bartender. Almost forgot. So that's coming up, and we'll be discussing some of those things.
When is that coming up?
That should be on June 1st. And I have, I'll be with Remy Savage and Julio Cabrera. And we'll be talking about all of that and a little bit about pivoting. And we'll be seeing it through the lens of COVID, even though we don't quite know what, the future really holds, but we'll be trying to discuss all of that. Just re-examining your role. What are you supposed to do? Talking about the art of it and not just the craft. Right? We can do the craft, but it's the art of bartending that is missing from.
And you got a good panel there too, Remy Savage and freaking Julio Cabrera, crying out loud.
I mean, what? I'd like to get a broad perspective, and then we'll be, yeah. So I'm excited about it. Working it out right now, but anyway, but seriously, thank you. And I was listening to your podcast, and you've got a really great voice, by the way. So I almost forgot what you sound like. So. It's great.
Oh, thank you.
No, you know what I mean? Because we're reading people all the time, right? We're just reading. So it's nice to hear your voice. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone
for watching. I'm looking forward to getting out and doing some shows in the near future, because I'm getting stir crazy being at home for this long.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. And your home can't quite contain you. I mean, what are you, 7 feet, 8?
Yes, something like that. Something like that. My roof in my basement is actually lower than my head, so I'm always crouching. Have a good rest of the day, sweetie.
Thank you so much. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.